Hello everybody, I'm Petro and this is Kha'zix, who, although sometimes getting a lot more credit than he deserves, is still a great jungler with insane burst and truly safe playstyle. Let's have a closer look at him. So, for runes, there is one really simple rune page which almost everyone uses, and that is why I will be going over it, because I'm always trying to show the most universal stuff. So you will want to go for domination with Dark Harvest, and this is one thing that I will slightly go off the charts. You can also go for Hail of Blades. Reason for that is that Kha'Zix passive can deal tremendous amounts of damage if used correctly, and with all your invisibility resets from your ultimate and possibly your items, you can get a great damage in those 2 seconds that Hell of Blades is active. This is still mostly for the early game, and although it can be used, as I said, with invisibility, you will be trying to get value of this rune in while the laning is still going on, and you can just quickly finish off, not finish off, but deal damage to champions who have not seen you and utilize the passive. Otherwise, you want to go for Dark Harvest, which on Kha'Zix can be pretty insane with all your resets. So yeah, I don't think I have to explain Dark Harvest. You can just get it really easily, and if you gank someone, you should always get at least the stack of the Dark Harvest, even if you don't get the kill. Then you want to go for Sudden Impact, because you don't really need Taste of Blood, your jungler won't actually even use it, and you have no CCs, so Cheap Shot is worthless. Eyeball Collection, again, you are gonna be using this because it gives you most AD overall, and Kha'Zix is all about having high AD. And Ravenous Hunter is possibly replaceable by Relentless Hunter. But Kha'Zix is extremely squishy champion, at least with this build. Meaning that having that sustain, which you will have because you heal insane amounts of damage from 1Q. Ravenous Hunter can be really useful, and if you get into that stage of the game, which I guess that I should not really give it give this as a reason for going for Ravenous Hunter, but if you get ahead, you can, with this rune only, you can pretty much 1v1 Baron, meaning that you can get that teeny beeny value of literally getting the most powerful objective in the game. And then we got secondary runes. Again, really simple. You want to go for absolute focus water walking. I have not played something else ever, I believe, even when I changed the main rune page. Because first off, you are going, as I said, you are extremely bursty, so going for that 70+% health is really easy for Kha'Zix. And water walking allows you to pretty much escape or chase in the river, which is really great thing for Kha'Zix, because you want a lot of your fights to be in the jungle because of the bushes, which you can utilize to even more enhance your passive. And yes, for smaller runes, obviously do adaptive forces and armor or magic resist, depending on the overall matchup of the enemy team. And you can possibly, if you are going for the Hell of Blades, you can possibly take attack speed instead of adaptive force, although that depends on you. So this is the page I would recommend. Now let's go in the game and talk about everything else. Okay, and here we are. So today I don't have to talk about summoner spells because you are just gonna go for Smite and Flash. So let's jump straight into items. Uh, First off, fairly easy for your first clear and before your slots are full, you obviously want to go for refillable potion and Ember Knife or Hellblade. With Kha'Zix, 90% of the time you want to go for the Hellblade. Only reason I see you going for the Ember Knife is going for the Hell of Blades, as I was, well, it's confusing. Well, going for the Hell of Blades rune, as I was talking about, because you can utilize that true damage since you will be damaging your enemies more often in short period of time. You can also possibly go this if enemy team has a champion that also has a lot of burst, but with Kha'Zix, even if they deal 20% less damage, if they are an assassin just like you, for now, for example, Zed, you will still die real easily to them. So I would probably go for Hell of Blade even in those matchups. And Hell of Blade also is really great for you and can help you chase and kind of escape too. So that's your first item, which will disappear really fast. Then you want to go for I either one of these three. You want to go for Eclipse mostly in the matchups where you know that enemies are gonna have a lot of sustain and they are tanks, which first off you don't want to pick Kha'Zix into those teams, but you can get counterpicked by tanks. So in those examples you want to go ahead and build Eclipse. Otherwise, you want to go for Prowler's Claw and Duskblade. Prowler's Claw is in those mixed team fights where they have, for example, 3 tanks and 2 squishy targets, which is mostly going to be ADC and mid laner. And you just want to make sure that you can get rid of them and escape. Duskblade, you want to go if enemy team is mostly consisted of squishy champions, or I would even say bruisers, because Kha'Zix can still deal with them if you play the matchup correctly. But if they have a lot of bruisers, you still probably want to go for prowlers. Well, I will right now pick this because we need to talk about some interactions with it, and we're gonna continue. For boots, which you want to get really early since you are a jungler, you need to move fairly fast over the map. You got 3 options: either plated steel caps, mercury threads, or boots of lucidity. You want to go for either of these two pretty much every game. For boots of lucidity, you want to go if first off you know that enemy are going to be in a group a lot, so you can pull out your Qs faster, or if you know that you will go for those extended fights, and as I was saying, you will be going for Eclipse. Because you in those matchups you need to have sustained damage with your abilities. But since we are in a normal game right now, right? We are going for plated steel caps, which I believe I use most of the time. And then it's pretty simple. You just build lethality with anything that you want to use. If enemy team has shielding, I would recommend buying Serpent's Fang first, because it's really cheap and has great stats, plus the whole shield remover. If they have a lot of healing, you can possibly go for Hempunk as your third item, well, second. Or you can go ahead and buy Collector. Collector is like Obviously, it is a good item because you will just delete an ADC that is there with 1Q and auto attack. But it can be a bit unreliable and costly at times, so think if you really want to use it. Otherwise, really great items for Kha'Zix are Edge of Night, if you want to avoid some abilities like Morgana's Q, any hook from any support, and you get the point otherwise. Humus Ghostblade is not uh, that awesome. It is obviously a great item because it first off allows you to travel even outside of combat really fast. It gives you great chasing potential, which you kind of lose after jumping on your enemy if you are not able to kill them. And then you can use Serilda, which again on Kha'Zix is really great because you do not have any CC at all unless you use your W evolved. So going for Serilda is really great, and it obviously has great armor penetration. If enemy has some magic burst, you can possibly go for more, but I don't think that it's that valuable. So great and typical build for Kha'Zix would be to go for Serpent's Fang, Edge of Night, Serelda, and Collector, or Yomus, or Empunk. Keeping in mind that if enemy team does not have any shields at all, you can replace Serpent's Fang with Yomus or Collector. And as before, if they do not have some big ability that you have to dodge, they just have... they don't have any big ability that you have to dodge, you can just get rid of Edge of Night and buy Yumus instead. And that's pretty much it for items. You obviously want to get your Stealth Ward at level 1 and ward either side of the jungler, so you don't get invaded, because even though Kha'Zix is an early game jungler, he does not do very well during farming in jungle early game. So you want to make sure that you don't get invaded. And then obviously after you place that ward, you want to change to Oracle Lens, so you can actually be useful and get good ganks off. Now, let's go ahead and talk about abilities. First off, we got Kha'Zix passive, which I was talking about already. First off, every time Kha'Zix is not visible to the enemy team, he empowers his next auto attacks for 2 seconds, and he slows enemies by 25% and deals bonus magic damage. This can be greatly used with your ultimate and your and your Dust Bite of Drakar if you have it. If you don't, well, then you have still ultimate, which if you cast it into exact intervals can give you 6 seconds of 25% slow on auto attacks and increase the magic damage on auto attacks. Enemies are also isolated if they have well, pretty much if they have this mark on them, they are isolated, and they basically can't have enemies inside of this circle, other enemies inside of this circle, and your abilities get empowered if they are in this. It's pretty simple, and it works. Now we can go ahead and explain passive part of ultimate first, because I don't want to get stuck later on. So pretty much every time you evolve your ultimate, not evolve, pretty much every time you put a point in your ultimate, you can evolve one of your abilities. You can obviously do this only 3 times, unless there's a Rengar on the enemy team, and there's the whole uh, hunting part where you can get your fourth ability evolve. But I'm pretty sure that everyone knows about that, and I don't have to explain it. Pretty much you can evolve all 4 of your abilities if you are playing good and you are in a game with Rengar. So, now we're gonna talk about Q. It is a point and click ability which deals incredible amounts of damage to the enemy. If the enemy is isolated, the damage is more than doubled. It is extremely powerful tool. If targets are isolated, you pretty much just delete them with 1 Q. If they are either not full health ADC or low health anything else. When you evolve this ability, you will get a lot of buffs. First off, when you cast it on an isolated target, the damage, the cooldown will be reduced. You will gain increased range on this ability. As you can see, the circle is well about a third longer, and you also get increased range on your auto attacks. This is really great if enemy has some forms of escape, or if enemies are dangerous when come close to. Evolving your Q is really important when going, for example, against Udyr, which is one of the worst matchups for Kha'Zix. But once you evolve your Q, you have a chance in the matchup, because with that range you can gain from that, you can actually fight Udyr because he is not able to close up on you that easily without being damaged first. And that is pretty much your Q. You want to get this on level 1 and max it first every time. On level 2, you will be getting your W, which is a like mid-range missile, which when it collides with first enemy, it creates an explosion around them, slightly in front of them, meaning that if you are trying to hit a group of enemies, you want to aim it at the ones who are in the back. So just showcase it good. Right now it hits both of them, and right now it hits only one. It's really simple. It also, when you are in the range of the explosion, it will also heal you, meaning that that's the reason you're taking it on level 2. You can sustain during your clearing. It's pretty simple ability, and you will be using it just as an additional form of damage during your ganks, although most of it always comes from Q. And you will be usually upgrading it last. Well, okay, let's just quickly talk about ability order so I can go ahead with my life. So, first off, on first 3 levels, you want to get your Q, W, and then E, because E has almost no value in your jungle. The damage is quite low, and unlike W, it does not grant you that sustain. After that, you want to obviously upgrade ultimate every time you can, and start upgrading your Q first. Then I would usually recommend getting 3 points in your E because of the cooldown, and then go and upgrade your W for the damage and also the healing, but the healing is not that great later on in the game. After that, you can go and finish your E, which by the time should have more value. So for evolved W, you will first off, if you are evolving your W, you should probably do it only if you are kind of behind and you are just trying to help someone on your team who is actually fat. At least from my point of view. First off, when you upgrade your W, your one missile will suddenly become 3 missiles, which, when hitting an isolated target, they will slow them by 90% for 2 seconds. If they are not isolated, they slow them by 60%. This is extremely powerful, mostly considering that you have 3 rockets. So if you got a team fight going on, you can hit multiple enemies with giant slows. Like 60% for 2 seconds is still pretty good. At 90% is incredible. So, as I said, you'll mostly be getting this only when you are behind and just want to assist your team. And that is pretty much everything for W. Kha'zix E is, again, I love movement abilities, so it's the most fun part for me. But it is, if you play Tristana, it's pretty much just like her, except it does not have the slow. You you choose an area, Kha'zix jumps into the area, it's a dash, it obviously does not collide with anything. And it is reason why Kha'zix can have so incredible ganks. So I will just not be standing around, I will evolve it immediately. Kha'zix get beautiful wings when he allows it. But when you evolve this ability, first off, it gets much longer range, and it is really powerful. You can jump onto ADCs really easily without almost any risk, because the distance you cover with this is incredible. You will also reset the ability every time you get takedown on an enemy champion. Meaning that you can go in, kill the target, go, and actually I do not kill this. So this auto refresh cooldowns are now the reason and showcase that I killed this dummy. When you kill an enemy champion, you can jump out. You can also use this to go for double jump, which I don't think I will be able to do right now because, yeah, you can. If you can cast your Q during the E, meaning that if you target the champion, you can E over them and Q while in midair. If it kills them, you get another leap and can continue flying, which does not work right now. But you can combine your leaps to cover extremely long distances. And lastly, we got Kha'zix ultimate. If you don't evolve it, which I can't right now, you'll become invisible for more than a second, and you can recast it one more time. Invisible, you will also get a burst of movement speed, and this allows you to chase champions or escape. First off, this is how it looks. Incredible, right? And as I said, you can recast it. When you evolve the ability, you will be able to cast it 3 times, and the invisibility lasts for 2 seconds. Meaning that, well, first off, invisibility is an extremely useful tool. You can use this to deceive enemies. You can also use this to get into their range without actually being damageable, because when you are invisible, you obviously they can't really do anything to you unless they have control board there. So you want to sometimes go in, E, and then continue. It is great tool. For example, it has all the tricks which every well, actually there's not that many champions with invisibility, so I can talk about it. Getting invisibility on command is really powerful, because when there's, for example, Darius, which is the mostly known showcase, pretty much any targeted ability in the game can be cancelled with invisibility. So when you see a Darius who uses his ultimate on you, you can go invisible and cancel that ultimate. And obviously, once you are invisible, you activate your unseen threat and gain that magic damage, which I was talking about earlier. So that's pretty much everything for abilities. I will just quickly go with the evolving part. So you have many options you can change around, but overall, it's best to go for Q evolve first, then evolve your E, and then ultimate. This is mostly just because of the damage, and damage only. You will evolve your W. Oh, first off, when you are behind, you will be probably going for your W, and you will already have your Q, because that you are behind will often show just after level 6, so you will already have your Q. But you want your Q because you can deal damage from safer distance, and that is really important when you are behind. And then you want to go for your ultimate again for survivability. So anyways, base most games you are either even or ahead. You want to go for Q, E, ultimate. Q for the damage and the cooldown reduction, E for the resets on targets and escapes or chasing, and ultimate for also chasing, escapes, and damage from unseen threat. And also you can use this to reposition during team fight when, for example, as I was talking about Morgana with items, you can also obviously use your ultimate to dodge some abilities. Another I can think of is Silas's E. He throws it at you, just dodge to the side. And that's pretty much it for abilities. Now we can go ahead and talk about quick combos in general. So, okay. Obviously, the first combo that comes into mind is ink onto target, Q, W, auto attack, and leave. It's really simple. There's not much to do there. You can also, and this is mostly comes from when you're ganking a target. Let's say that we have beautiful. This is Nasus. You can see it because he looks like Timo. When the enemy is in the line, they're farming, you obviously have your teammate there. You want to check the bushes, try and go behind them. Once that happens, you will start off with your Q auto attack, then throw out your W, which you will want to throw out early because it can get you some bonuses and advice. And save your E for their flash or any other form of disengage. If they have some CC, they use it on you. You just E back to them once they move. So pretty much when you're ganking, save your E, unless you know that, let's just say that they have 300 health, right? And Kha'zix just comes in, E's, Q's, W's is gone. And in those examples, obviously don't save your E. Unless you know they still have flash, and you will still want to E behind them. You don't even have to try to damage them with your E. It is just utility. And yes, that is pretty much it. When you are fighting someone and you know that they have, I will let's say that this is a Vayne. She has a lot. I would say that Vayne can have a lot of burst. So you want to E on her. Obviously, be wary, for example, of her W, right? E. You want to E on her, Q her. If she has someone who is healing her, use your R. Out of that, you will auto attack her, get that bonus damage. She is dead. Your R is utilized a lot for the chasing, as I was saying already, but it can also be utilized for the dueling alone. So, for example, you want to auto attack Q, then go invisible, wait for your Q cooldown to go down. If you have a look, it is, well, actually, it is 2 seconds. So you go invisible, and once you go out, you auto attack Q again. Every squishy is dead by that point, and you can keep fighting the stronger foes, going invisible again and repeating it. So you want to go R for safety purposes, or when you just need to chase someone who is trying to escape. And that is pretty much it for Kha'Zix. With clear, you want to go for typical 4 camps. Uh, I would not recommend full clearing or Kha'Zix unless you know that, unless you see that enemy liners are going to be pushed in when you can't go in since you don't have your E evolve and can't get out of the tower range. So, unless if you see that they are pushed under the tower, you have a lane, for example, your laner is Tristana, who pretty much is forced to push. You want to go and full clear. You usually need a leash at the start because Kha'Zix can have very unhealthy clears. So you need someone to assist you on the buffs. Some small tips for this are when you are clearing raptors, you want to auto attack one of the small ones, W ever, then let them surround you, W everything. Then you want to auto attack each of the small ones while using your Q on the big raptor. After that, they will die to your second W and burn from your jungle item, meaning that you can just focus on the big one, let it burn off, and you can go ahead on wolves. There you will do really similar stuff. You will just auto attack, you will just W, hit all 3 of them, then you will focus your Q on the big one while auto attacking each of the small wolves once, again leaving it up for the W, then you finish off the big wolf. After that you want to move on the blue buff where you can use your smite, your first smite in the game, and then you have a time window where you can go for scuttle because you have a time to wait for it actually, or you can go ahead and try to gank your probably top lane or mid lane. That's pretty much your optimal jungle clear. Then you can go ahead and finish off Gromp. If your enemy team has some extremely weak early game jungler, You can also do the typical free camp clear, where you just take red, blue Gromp, or obviously blue Gromp threat, and you can try to invade because on level 3 Kha'Zix is a threat in the jungle, and some of these junglers he can kill. Now, for the matchups, it is really dependent on skill. For example, obviously Kha'Zix is terrible against tanks, but most of the tanks are really weak early game, or at least they are not powerful early game. So everybody plays the toxic spawn of hell Amumu now. Amumu has terrible clear at the start of the game. So you can do the free clear, invade him, and that's pretty much the only way you can beat tanks. You just cripple them early. He obviously does very well against every squishy in the game, and you have to be wary of some examples which, well, for ban, you want to get rid of something like, for example, Udyr, as I was talking already, because he's really dangerous to deal with, and you have to be mechanically extremely skilled to actually beat him later on in the game. Early, you still have a chance because he doesn't not have that much stats, but Udyr is a early game champion, so he will most likely kill you even in the early game. Then we have champions like, for example, Evelynn, who pre-level 6, she has no chance against you, you will kill her every time. But once she gets, well, once she gets her ultimate and she gets the, uh, she is invisible for you, unless you have control wards, you pretty much can't do much against Evelynn. You can try to wait in the bushes, make sure that they aren't warded, and try to catch her off guard, but that's your only option. Because unlike you, she can't be seen all the game. So she just needs to land to 1W, and late game, that is enough for her. She does not even have to wait for the charm to fill up, because she will have more burst than you. Although you can try to counter it with your ultimate and just disappear from her. And one more matchup I want to talk about with Kha'Zix is Shaco, because I always win Shaco just because I hate playing against it. But there is also a practical reason, and that is that Shaco, because of his ultimate, can negate your isolation, meaning that you will deal a lot less damage to him or to his clone, and he can pretty much mess you up really easily. And that is going to be everything for this guide. I hope you learned something, and I will see you in the next video. Petri out.